Good afternoon. Welcome back to another Team News live stream on Fantasy Football Scout, this time for Game Week 7. And as it seems to have been for the last few weeks, there's some interesting injury news and some confirmed players out, which we're going to get to in just a second. Before we do that, say hi to Neale. How are you doing?
Very well, Andy. Yeah, not too bad, thank you. Yeah, full of busy. If you think this Friday deadline's early, then look at next week. It's going to be, is it a 4
o'clock? It's ridiculous.
Deadline? Yeah, next week.
Because obviously
this is going to...
Sorry, I was just going to say, because we've got, obviously, it's an hour and a half now. The deadline's, the game is at 5:30, so yeah, it's 4 o'clock. Yeah. So we'll figure out what the hell we're gonna do with this stream next week. We'll worry about that's next week's problem. For this week, there's a lot of injuries. That's the problem. So I reckon we get straight into it because there are quite a few high-profile ones. So Everton, like last week, we had he might be out, then he probably isn't going to be, and then Rodriguez played. This time he's been ruled out, right? Completely.
Yes, unless Ancelotti's really trying to hoodwink us, then I think this was a sign that he will not play. It isn't serious, which is a good thing. Ancelotti said he should be back next weekend. Didn't elaborate on what the problem was. I think it was a muscle injury reported at first. Well, I've seen a few suggestions that he's something to do with his nether regions, but I don't know if that's actually true. But he's not going to play in Game Week 7 anyway, if we're to believe Ancelotti. Did say that he wouldn't feature alongside Coleman, who was injured still, and the suspended Richarlison and Digne. Now, Digne was suspended for 3 games initially because it was a serious foul play, red card, but that's been reduced to 1 on appeal. So he will miss this one, but he'll be back for Game Week 8. They have got 2 players back from injury, and that are Branthwaite, who's back up centre-half, probably won't play. But someone who could is John Joe Kenny, who's the understudy to Coleman. We saw Godfrey play there right back last week, but he didn't particularly perform well against Southampton in an unusual position for him. So could be Kenny coming back in for him, I think.
Yeah, I think the Son injury a few weeks ago when he played and scored all those points against Man United, I think has really affected FPL managers. So I keep seeing people say, well, Ancelotti said the same last week, but there is key differences. Last week he said, I think he's going to be out, and then he said he's trained, so he might be back. And this time he's actually, it was one of the first questions, he was the first question he got, and he said James Rodriguez is not available. So it is different. If you're expecting him to potentially play, it's not going to happen. And the only, unless of course he is hoodwinking us, like you say. And then the only thing I worry about now is Calvert-Lewin. I'm not saying anyone should sell him. It's Man United after this, which isn't great. Then it's Fulham, which I think is everyone's waiting for. But if you haven't already got him, you can probably stop worrying about him for a few game weeks now, I think. I do think the amount of injuries and stuff Everton have got is gonna affect him, which pains me to say it as someone that's owned him the whole way through. Let's talk about the other, probably the big one. This is West Ham, and Antonio's going to miss out this week as well, but we don't know any further, right?
Yeah, there was widespread reports last night that it could be anything between a month and 6 weeks. Now that hasn't been confirmed by the club. Moyes had his press conference this morning, said that he wouldn't play against Liverpool, which is what we thought. But that it didn't seem too bad, so no prognosis from him. Whether it doesn't seem too bad means it's towards the lower grade of hamstring injury, which is still a few weeks out, because obviously a bad one can really out for months. So we'll see. Yeah, we didn't really get anything from Moy today, but he's red flagged for Game Week 7 anyway. He's West Ham's only real injury doubt. There would be the natural fit, I suppose, if you're looking at someone to come in for Antonio as a spearhead of the attack. But we did see Yarmolenko come on for Antonio last weekend, and then Bowen move centrally as a sort of false 9. So not entirely clear-cut who will come in for Antonio, but he won't feature anyway, which is annoying because I'd planned a transfer for him, not this week, but for the Fulham game, the fixture swing in Game Week 8. At least it gives me another week of deliberation time. Hopefully we'll get a more clear-cut update before then. But if it is 4 to 6 weeks, then that takes out a big chunk of West Ham's good fixtures.
Yeah, actually, I think like so many people would have been planning for that Game Week 8 fixture. Like, I think for those of us that don't own, it's kind of handy because you can just wait till next week. It's really frustrating for owners because there was those, like you said, those reports of 4 to 6 weeks. That would have been an easy sell. But now it's like, well, you probably wouldn't have got many points against Liverpool anyway. So I'll keep him for Fulham. We could find out next week he's had a price drop and he's still out. So it's just one of those things where I don't think we're going to get any more info. And apparently Moyes is trying to shut down the amount of leaks that are coming out of West Ham, because there are a few people that seem to be in the know, and it's not really become concrete. So yeah, another frustrating option this week. And there is like another quite a big one. He's quite well owned as well. Let's go on to Leicester. So Castagne's out as well, right? I'll check his ownership in a sec, but I think he's pretty well owned, and he's going to miss some weeks, right?
Yeah. So Rodgers actually hasn't had his game week 7 press conference. That's going to be tomorrow, which is after the deadline, because Leicester aren't in action until Monday night. But he did face the media last night after the Europa League, and before kickoff mentioned that Castagne and Evans both injury doubts or concerns, I should say. Evans, it's a relatively minor back problem that he almost played against. I think it was AK Athens they were playing, so he almost featured in that, but had to pull out of a training session before the game. So I think it was more a case of not risking him. Castagne is the big one, obviously from an FPL perspective, because he's one of the most owned defenders. And from Rodgers' comments, he's not expecting him back before the November international break. So that's 2 Premier League games. And then we'll see what happens beyond that from game week 9 onwards. But Leicester's fixtures aren't great long term anyway. So I'm sure there'll be a few people moving him on. And not many of us will have the luxury of benching a player at the moment for 2 or more game weeks, given the plethora of fitness concerns we've had elsewhere. Obviously, Rodriguez being one, and obviously various others as well. Dina, Richarlison. So, he's looking like he's not going to feature before game week 9, which in turn, I guess, has a knock-on effect for Leicester's other defensive assets. If you're just owner, are you as confident about clean sheets now that they're definitely down Castagne, already down Pereira and Soyuncu, and they've got a flag, a doubt over Evans as well. So maybe a good time to be a Leeds attacker owner. If you're still on Bamford after his hat-trick in game week 6, then it could be a good time to play Leicester.
Yeah, the Bamford bandwagon just keeps on rolling. It's definitely got a little bit stronger this week. It's a bit annoying for owners because 4 of the next 6 actually look pretty, from a defensive point of view, maybe not for attacking wise, but yeah, defensively look pretty good. But yeah, 18.7% ownership he is. So I'd say we're going to see some mass sales, and that 5.8 million price tag might be a bit closer to 5.5 again after the international break. So we'll see what happens there. Let's go on to Man City. Any updates around Aguero and Jesus? Obviously, they're the big names that have been out for a while now.
Aguero's out. I think it'll be at least a couple of weeks for him, and then we'll see beyond that. Mendy is out as well, and Fernandinho. They have got Ake and Gabriel Jesus nearing a return. Pep said this afternoon that both of them are getting better, which is all he would say, at least in the broadcast section. So we're not entirely sure if that means they're in contention for Sheffield United, but they're obviously nearing a return. And I guess Jesus' return is particularly relevant with that fixture swing coming up for City in game week 10. So I think just a couple of weeks ago, Guardiola seemed to hint that he would be out for months and months, but already he's back or nearing a return. So he will obviously share a bit of game time with Aguero when he's fit. And then the usual week-to-week rotation roulette will occur when the fixtures start piling up towards December as well. So, starting to get a few bodies back. Still, obviously, a few players out as well. We saw it was Torres who was given the nod to play centrally against Marseille rather than Sterling. And now Sterling could move back into the centre if Torres isn't playing against Sheffield United. But yeah, they'll definitely have to do without Aguero, and obviously a question mark over Jesus. And if he has been out for about a month and he's a sort of 50-50 call, then maybe he won't get thrown in from the start, especially with a lot of games coming up. I think the Liverpool match is upon us as well, isn't it? So I don't think they're going to take any huge risks with that coming up.
Yeah, the whole months, whether they're out for months or not. I think he said the same thing about Aguero, and then suddenly he's back, and then he's got injured again. So it's really hard to know until he says they're definitely back. We're just gonna have to keep waiting and guessing, I think, and just watching City play without a proper number 9. Unless Liam Delap gets a chance at some point, but it doesn't seem likely. What about Chelsea? Have we heard from Lampard at all today?
We heard from him yesterday, so it's pretty all quiet on the Chelsea injury front, really. Gilmore was only absentee, and then Kepa's back in training now from a shoulder problem. But otherwise, seems to be fully fit unless anything's happened in between. Did mention that there were a few tired bodies after the midweek exertions in the Champions League. Now, I think there's less than 72 hours separates their two games, the Champions League tie and then the Game Week 7 fixture. So there's a possibility of a few rests, certainly with the fixtures coming thick and fast at the moment. Another Champions League match next week, of course. So I would not be surprised if there's a half surprise in a benching. I'm not going to speculate who it might be.
Come on. I'll say it. I've seen a few people on Twitter saying, like, for example, Ben Chilwell's played a lot of minutes in quick succession. Yeah. He is only 23 though, so I'm hoping age is still on his side and he'll play. And I just think the one thing for someone like him, because a lot of people, the reason I mentioned him particularly is not just because I'm thinking about bringing him in, but I know a lot of people are this week, and I just wonder if Lampard's just sick to death of having to play Emerson and Alonso on the left, and that unless Chilwell's, unless he's got a leg falling off, he'll probably just play him. But it is, it's hard to know. I think unless the manager says, you kind of just have to go with it. If that's the transfer you want to bring in, do it.
Yeah, Chilwell was the one I was kind of thinking of. I think I mentioned this earlier to you in our team chat, because he did look tired on Wednesday. But as you say, I mean, Alonso fell foul of Lampard after that West Brom game. He would have been probably, if everyone was fit and everyone was in the good books, and I would have thought he might have come in for this, because obviously Burnley's aerial threat, Alonso's pretty good in the air. So I did one, and of course I got a low block, so he isn't going to do as much defending as you would think in a game against a big six or something. But I don't know how favoured he is by Lampard anymore. And obviously Emerson's on the fringes as well. Of course, they've got Azpilicueta can play on the left.
Yeah, that's true. And James was fully rested as well, wasn't
he? Yeah, he is. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll have to see. Like we say, there's no guarantees that any of them are going to miss out. But he has played a lot of games since he came in. Obviously, he was injured as well before he started. Yeah. Although he was kind of managed at the start. He didn't come straight in and start playing 90 minutes. So we'll have to wait and see. This time next week, we might be talking a bit differently about him. Let's go on to Wolves. So I see the same picture was used twice for on Twitter for Nuno. This is a great picture for the info that he gives us. What do you think about the whole Kilman-Saiss situation? Any new news there?
No news. He was absolutely no use whatsoever, as is often the case. So injuries or team selection, there was no real insight. Johnny, we know, of course, is out, but all Santos said was that they've got some knocks and some problems. He said the same thing, I think, every week since I've started this job. He was actually asked specifically about the left-sided defensive situation. So Saiss and Kilman have been at wing back and centre half respectively over the last 3 game weeks. But we did see Marcel come on for Saiss in game week 6 against Newcastle, because as defensively sound as Saiss has been, he doesn't offer a great deal going the other way. Not that Marcel is attacking a Semedo on the other side either. I mean, traditionally the left-sided wing-back role at the Wolves has been the less attacking one. It was the same with Johnny and Doherty. But Marcel is a round peg and a round hole, whereas Saiss isn't. And it was because of Marcel's injury that this selection happened in the first place, that Saiss was playing at wing-back. So I do think Marcel will come back in. Who he comes in for, I think that is harder to decide on, because Saiss, of course, can drop back into that central 3 alongside Body and Cody. But Kilman's just been playing so well over the last 3 games. He's probably been their best defender, won a couple of Man of the Match awards. And Santos was traditionally not really, he's rotated further forward, but not in his back 3 when things are going well, and things have been going pretty well in terms of clean sheets. It was only really a freak free kick from Murphy last week that deprived them of another clean sheet. So yeah, I'm a Kilman owner, and I'm concerned, and I'm sure Saiss owners will be as well. And there is, I think, one of those two will miss out at the expense of Marcel. It's just, if you look on Wolves forums, if you look at Wolves journalists, every prediction is different as to who's going to miss out. Not just with that, but also with Traore possibly come back in as well, and then Moutinho has been regularly sharing game time with Neves and Dendoncker. So yeah, a lot of uncertainty. We can cling on to hope that there's some kind of leak before tonight, but given the deadline's now 90 minutes before kickoff, it's less and less likely that will happen.
Yeah, I've been saying it all week. Like sometimes it's just impossible not to sit on the fence, and there is absolutely no way of knowing which of these two is going to
Yeah.
pay. I just really hope Marcel. I don't own either, so I'm not really in a position where I'm worried about it right now. I just hope that Marcel does start, and at least that puts it to bed for one more week until they get swapped around again. So fingers crossed he starts, and we know just as Wolves fixtures start to turn bad, and we probably won't even want to prioritise the defender in anyway. Let's go on to who we've not done. Liverpool. So obviously without Van Dijk and now without Fabinho as well, right?
Yeah, Fabinho's out. It's a little injury according to Klopp, so he's going to miss this weekend, and then he said probably slightly longer as well. So maybe that'll take him into the international break. Thiago and Naby Keita, he was a bit less clear cut on. Now I think they have been back in training. They weren't pictured in the training ground photos on Thursday, but they have apparently been at the training ground, whether it be doing individual work or just part sessions. So yeah, Klopp says they're both getting better, both progressing, but did kind of stress that a return to training doesn't mean they're ready to play straight away. And obviously the number of fixtures Liverpool got coming up, the Man City game, as I mentioned earlier, is next week. So I don't suppose you'd take any risks. I think Matip's the other one as well. So Gomez obviously looks nailed at centre half at the moment. And Matip would be the one to come in if Van Dijk and Fabinho are injured. But he himself has been carrying a problem as well. And he wasn't involved in Europe in midweek, and he wasn't spotted in the training ground either in the Thursday photos, although reports suggest he has been at Melwood, at least doing individual work. So yeah, a lot of uncertainty. This would have been a good match for Antonio if he had been fit, because obviously that is an understrength defence. So we could see Reece Williams coming in for Liverpool at centre half if they really are down to one fit senior centre half in Gomez. I don't think he's even priced up in FPL yet. I know Nico Williams is the fullback, but it was Reece who came on for Fabinho in midweek in the Champions League. So yeah, a very understrength Liverpool defence.
You're a Trent owner. Are you worried? Or thinking about selling anytime soon?
I'm not thinking about selling them now. I mean, if I've got a wild card probably coming up around about game week 10, I think. So I might, at that point, downgrade him to Robertson. But I suspect by that point, there'll be very little difference in the price. Because Robertson's rising, Alexander-Arnold's dropping. So I don't know if I'll make that much of a saving, to be honest. I'm keeping them for now. It was the same last season. They started really terribly in terms of clean sheets. I think, was it 2 in the first 15 or something like that? And then they went on a big run over Christmas and New Year. So I think a Liverpool defender at the moment is a long-term hold for me. But I'm not ruling out the switch to Robertson on the wild card if there is a slight saving to be made. And given that Robertson's now taking even more corners than Alexander-Arnold and getting into better positions offensively as well.
Yeah, I'm an owner. I'm considering using him to fund a Rodriguez move, but I don't like it. And I think the fact that Antonio was out this week just makes it an even worse time potentially to do it, because I think he's actually looked better in the last couple of games, Premier League and Champions League, that Trent this is. So yeah, it's not an ideal time to get rid, but someone like Chilwell looks like a good bet. Let's move on to a team that hasn't conceded a goal to an opposition player in the last 3 games, and they've played Leipzig, PSG, and Chelsea. Man United, of course, that is, in unbelievable form. Not much big news coming out of them, right? Just Tellez, I think.
Yeah, he's tested positive for COVID, so he's going to be missing. And obviously they've got the suspended Martial as well, and the longer term ones like Bailly and Lingard. But yeah, pretty quiet.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what happens with. It's a bit annoying that he's. I mean, annoying. I'm sure it's annoying for him that he's tested positive as well. But it would have been good to have him fit and see whether he's going to start in this back four, because he is someone that would tempt me for sure. But yeah, until he's back, there's just no way of knowing. What about your boys, Newcastle? Anything interesting coming out of there at all?
Yeah, if you are looking for any kind of consolation with Calvert-Lewin, despite the injuries that Everton have got, it's that Lascelles a major concern according to Bruce. I think he got a knock last weekend against Wolves, so he's going to be assessed for the next 48 hours. It isn't ruled out definitely, but the words major concern is obviously leaping out to me from that press conference from Bruce. Other than that, though, I think it's just the long term ones like Gale, Richie Shelvey, and Dubravka. They might have a cluster of players back who've been playing for the under 23s, just building up the match fitness. The likes of Clark and Dummett, Longstaff as well. So yeah, Lascelles obviously the big concern there.
Yeah, hopefully Calvert-Lewin can get something. I don't know who's going to deliver the ball to him though at this rate with so many players out. But I mean, it is Newcastle, so hopefully it won't be too bad. What about Fulham? Good fixture this week. Any major injury news there?
Anderson could be back, so he's a summer signing. He's one of the centre halves that they've bought. He's possibility to return, but they're missing Tete, Cabano, and Congolo. And Kamara begins a 3-match ban as well. So but nothing really in terms of I'll say the well-known Fulham players. Are there any well-known Fulham players? Maybe Mitrovic, Lookman as well, possibly. Bit of a differential. But yeah, as you were really with Fulham, with the exception of maybe Anderson coming back.
Cool. And what about Burnley? So I think a lot of us thought that Spurs might put quite a few past them. Defended quite well, and may do the same against Chelsea. Have they got any players coming back? So obviously they're down quite a few at the moment.
It was similar during the post-restart era, wasn't it? They had a bad opening game against Man City, and then they reverted to type after that. They really solidified beyond that. So I think they might be back into their groove now. So this will be a test for Chelsea, I think. So yeah, they've got. I don't know if they've got anybody back actually. I think Peters and Cork are still out. Ben Mee's back on the training ground and he's played for the under-23s or a behind closed doors friendly, I should say. But Dyche was saying he wants more minutes for him before he's considered for a first team return. Bardsley I think he's clear of COVID in terms of the symptoms, but they're still waiting on him clearing testing. So I don't think he's going to be involved. And Goodmanson's touch and go. This is a fresh injury. Another one for Goodmanson. Seems to be every other week with his calf again. So could be Brady coming in on the right, as has happened before. Could be Brownhill moving over there with Stevens brought into the middle. But yeah, almost as you were against Spurs, with the exception of Goodmanson dropping out, possibly.
Cool. Yeah, I think they are going to give them even with all these injuries, I think they're going to give Chelsea a pretty tough game. Chelsea not been great going forward. I don't think a Burnley team is going to really help with that. So it'll be interesting to see if they can get past them. Obviously, it took a long time for Spurs to do it in that last game. What about Brighton? They haven't really been making too many changes this year, and they've pretty much got a fully fit squad as well, right?
Yeah, looks good. I think the only ones who aren't involved are peripheral players anyway. The likes of Jan Bash, who's going to be missing again with a hamstring problem. Davy Propper is, I think, it's match fitness now with him. He's got an outside chance of featuring. Dunk suspended, of course. He's a big miss at centre half, but no fresh concerns according to Potter in his press conference yesterday.
Cool. Let's go to Sheffield United. So last year's Lord Lundstrom now not signing a contract, I heard. So, I mean, do you think stuff like that has a big effect on a manager's perception of whether to pick them, or do you think they can't afford to make luxury choices like that?
I guess it depends on the player and how integral they are to the setup. I mean, this isn't anything new. This has been dragging on for a long time, and he has played, I think, every game this season already. But there was a lot of attention devoted to in yesterday's press conference, and he has turned it down again. And I think it looks like he's just running the contract down. Wilder did say that he is available for selection, and he's sure he'll do his best if he is called upon. But did add that I have to make a decision now whether to trust players who've put pen to paper and are dedicated to the club against someone like Lundstrom who seems intent on just running down the clock and then leaving either in January for a fee or on a free next summer. So yeah, it could happen. I mean, the return of Max Lowe sort of gives them the opportunity to do that, because Osborne, who was excellent against Liverpool, was playing as a wing back then. So Lowe could come in down the left flank, and then Osborne can push inside to play as the left side as central midfielder, which is where Lundstrom was playing. It's not somewhere where I used to see him. He was mostly on the right last season. But Sander Berge has been excellent in that position recently, and is pretty much the Neale central midfielder now for Sheffield United. So I would not be surprised to see him drop out. I don't think it's a death knell for his Sheffield United career. I think he'll still be involved. But given that they're getting bodies back, and given how well Osborne played, I think, at Liverpool, then there's a chance he drops out for the first time this season.
Maybe they'll make him a much more attractive offer than the very attractive offer that he's had so far. We'll have to wait and see. What about Villa? They've obviously been doing well this year. Again, a team that I don't think has got many injuries, right? Just, again, peripheral players, I think.
Villa, did you say? That's where you dropped.
Yeah, Villa. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, yeah, they're fine. Yeah, it looks like Dean Smith didn't mention anybody in the press conference. Heaton was due to feature in midweek in a behind closed doors game, but wasn't quite ready for that. But he's going to play for the under-23 soon. So it's just him and Wesley, I think, who are the long-term ones. Not sure what Howe's, whether he's fit or not, but I don't think there'll be a lot of changes, if any. Obviously, there was a bit of a setback last week against Leeds, but Smith himself called it a 40-minute blip, and given the context of the season as a whole, they've been excellent. I think Traore is always going to threaten Trezeguet long term, but I think he featured in a game against West Brom in a sort of a behind closed doors kick about Traore. So that maybe suggests that the team's going to be unchanged again for this one.
Yeah, did not really put a foot wrong so far. I feel a bit sorry for Tom Heaton. Obviously, gone there, he got injured. Like, he's had a couple of long-term injuries now, and he's not going to get back in even when he's fit at this point. So, yeah, I do feel a bit sorry for him. We might see him move on again at some point. How about Leeds then? Bielsa usually likes to give us some useful news, unlike the likes of Nuno. Anything big from them?
Yeah, he's my favourite Bielsa. At least he's told us that Cooper is back. So he's the sort of the mainstay at the back, really, as centre half. Llorente is still out, along with Phillips and Forshaw. It didn't tell us anything beyond that, which he actually gives us the team, or at least gives us a heads up on the problem positions. Hasn't this time, because he says he hasn't picked the team yet. It's a Monday night game, so obviously they've got a few days left to choose. But yeah, Cooper, if he is fully fit, if he's match ready, then you would expect him to come back in, even though Leeds kept a clean sheet. Could see Shackleton play over Struijk. I haven't nailed that name just yet.
I saw a few. Yeah, sorry, I was just going to say, I literally saw a few Leeds fans talking about earlier. They think it's 50-50 cool. They're just not too sure. So yeah, could be one of those two.
Yeah, if you backed him last time because Bielsa said he would start, and he did against Villa, then you were shortchanged because he came off after, I think, 21 minutes, was booked early on, and he was at the risk of getting a red, I think. So Bielsa hooked him, set on Shackleton, and they went and won 3-0. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's not involved this week. But other than Cooper being back, I think you'll probably see and that change possibly, we'll see a similar team against Leicester.
Cool, and again, to one of similar teams, like not really put a foot wrong this season. I think we're going to see pretty much the same thing from Southampton as well, right? Again, no major injuries and probably a pretty similar team.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, Walcott's back from ineligibility because he couldn't face Everton. It was his parent club last weekend, but I suspect Armstrong will keep him out the side anyway. And then the injury situation, just as you were, I think Smallbone, Salisu, and Jeanette aren't quite ready yet. So yeah, could be unchanged after that 2-0 win over Everton.
Cool. I think by my reckoning we have 4 teams left, so I'm just going to go through them one. I mean, we've been going one by one the whole way through, but we'll carry on with that. So, have we heard from Arsenal or Spurs? So obviously they both had games last night, right?
Yeah, that's the crucial thing with the Europa League teams, is that we sometimes don't have standalone press conferences, and then we get leaked quotes from embargoed sections the next day or the day after that. So Spurs, yes, we've heard from Mourinho. I think it was new quotes at 1:30. Nothing much in it apart from Dyer and Ndombele, who both missed out in that defeat on Thursday. He's expecting both of them to be fine. And Ndombele had some slight muscle fatigue, and they didn't want to risk him on Thursday night. And Dyer was actually fit. He'd just come back from a bit of a couple of weeks layoff, I think. Played against Burnley, but then they didn't want to play him twice in 3 days, so he was rested as well. So I think everything's fine. Although, of course, these comments come straight after a match on a Thursday, so there's obviously chances of something happening in between then and kickoff. Arsenal, similar, I think. Nothing really from Arteta in terms of new injury news. Again, they have it's a bit of a split because the Arsenal Football Club send out a separate medical bulletin aside from Arteta's press conference. So we've not had that yet. But we did know that David Luiz was a big doubt for the Man United game. He missed out on Thursday, and I think Arteta said on was it Wednesday in the pre-match presser that he was a major doubt for the visit to Man United, so he could miss out. But they did have Saka. Saka's fine; he's shaking off a knock, and Williams back as well from a calf problem.
good stuff. It was a pretty second string side as well last night. There wasn't too many big. I actually watched a little bit of it. Okay, so two teams left, big ones: West Brom and Crystal Palace.
Yeah, West Brom, nice and simple. I think it's just Dara O'Shea's back and Robson Kanu and Fielder out. Of course, they sold Hagazi before game week 6, and so he's gone now. And Crystal Palace, I suppose some things of note here, especially if you're a Mitchell owner. I know he's still very popular. I've got him on my bench. Now he is a doubt for tonight's game at Wolves. He got picked up a knock, I think, on Wednesday in training, so they're going to assess him before kickoff. Not definitely ruled out, or at least Hodgson hasn't told us that. But Ward is injured as well. He's got a groin problem. So possibly, a change or two at fullback. Klein already played last week in Ward's absence. But we could see the return of Van Aanholt if Mitchell hasn't recovered from that knock. There's better news elsewhere. Cahill's back from a kick to the shin, so you'd expect him to come back in. Butland and Ayew have been cleared after their COVID tests. McCarthy's back as well from a hamstring problem. MacArthur is back from a calf problem. So they've got a few bodies back. It's just the one who most people own in FPL, Mitchell, who is now flagged, as you will have seen by now, and obviously a significant doubt, I think, for the Wolves game tonight.
Yeah, it's one of those annoying ones as well because we can never know this for sure, but he had played twice with Van Aanholt on the bench, so he may have kept his place. But this could be one of those moments now where Van Aanholt comes in, he does fine, and then just gets to keep it now until he maybe gets injured again or has a big drop in form. So yeah, it could be a bit of a catalyst with Mitchell, but I guess for most people it's just someone kind of rotting on the bench. But a bit of a frustrating one. A couple of quick questions for you before we finish. You got Luca Dean, I see, in your team. Sent off, only going to miss one game now. Are you thinking about keeping him? And if not, who you bringing in?
It was Chilwell, much like yourself. I was looking at him, but obviously that team selection in midweek has got a few doubts in my mind. The fact that I'm down Mitchell as well means that I'm playing. Well, I've got two, you would think, definite starters in Alexander-Arnold and Justin, but even my third fit player is Kilman, and I might not be able to count on a start from him if Saiss drops back to centre half. So could be down to two defenders. So I might have to. I was going to roll a transfer this week, and then my move was going to be, I can't believe I've still got him, but Mitrovic stinking up my team.
It's West Brom this week.
It's going to be.
Yeah, rolling. But you're going to keep him for this week, right?
Yeah, I was keeping for this week. Yeah, this has been his swan song. What a disastrous decision that's been. And then it would have been him to Antonio in game week 8. But obviously that's jettisoning my plans. Might be bored now for Podence, I think. But yeah, I don't know. I'll have to have a think. I think, I don't really want to go into a game week with 2.5 defenders. Kilman being the half, obviously, because I can't count on his start. So yeah, I'll have to have a think. I've not got long to do it. I think I've only got 3.5 hours, so better get my skates on. Yeah,
good luck with it. Thanks very much for everyone for joining us. Obviously, as always, if there is any more news, it'll be up on Twitter. Also, Neale will have the team news article on Fantasy Football Scout as well. But there is only a few more hours, so the chance of getting any more big news is unlikely. So if we want to get those transfers locked in, now is a good time to do it. I'm sure we will be back in some way, shape or form next week.
Yeah, we will.
Yeah, but I just don't know what time, and I don't know how many press conferences we will have seen, but we'll figure something out. Because like we said, the deadline is at 4:00 next week. But we'll back at some point. Me and Neale will work that out. Otherwise, Neale, thanks very much for all the info and joining me today.
Thanks, Andy. Good luck, everybody.
Yeah, good luck, everyone. If you've enjoyed it, please do give it a like if you've had some useful info in that one, and subscribe if you are watching on YouTube. Obviously, we'll have the podcast up soon as well. Good luck in Game Week 7, and we will catch you again at some point next week.